Hello, it's Nikki. How are you doing? I hope you're doing really well. Welcome to part 3 today. Over this week, I'm going to be sharing some big lessons that I've had in 2021. There are many lessons that I've had personally and professionally as well. But I really want to share the topics rather, that are going to be useful and hopefully give you some pointers, some journal prompts, some things to consider when you're out and about, and some takeaways that you can apply to your business. So today I want to talk about that topic of money. And this is a really juicy topic, and it's one that is complicated, let's just say. So over the last few years, I have become so meticulous with my relationship with money. And as I've mentioned many times over the years, I didn't feel equipped for being self-employed when I first started, and for many of my early years as being self-employed. And I often say I made a lot of mistakes with money. And there was nothing scandalous, I'm afraid. Well, no, I'm not afraid. I'm grateful for. There was no trouble or anything like that. But I didn't have a great relationship with it. And it's taken a long time to figure out, hello, I'm 40, but it's taken a long time to figure out what that relationship is and what money is and what it's all about. And certainly at this time. So where do I start? Well, first and foremost, I want to say that what is in your bank account may reveal a part of who you are, but it won't reveal everything that you are. And there have been times where over the years I've got to December and I've looked at my bank account and I've just felt really disappointed or frustrated, or I was going to say, self-loathing. That's what I was going to say. Sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? But that's what came to my head. So let's say that. And I think what we've seen over the last couple of years, when we see what nurses and firefighters are paid, people who risk their lives every single day, they are not people who are earning the most amount of money in this country. And so when people talk about money mindset of your bank account will tell you everything that you need to know, I feel it's only true to a certain point. Because yes, there may be evidence or there may be data that you could look at of saying, actually, I haven't felt really good in myself and therefore I haven't been visible or I haven't sold or I haven't done any of those things. But equally, there might be people who are working and really overworking and over-delivering to everybody. And compared to a hedge fund manager or an investment banker, what they take home and what they have access to is completely and utterly, it's just other ends of the spectrum. And also based on their value and what they put into the world. Basically, I'm saying it's not just one thing. There's always a conversation, there's always a story. So I wanted to start there, that where you are right now is going to give you some information, but it's not going to give you the whole story. And I think as service providers, as small businesses, we have to stop putting so much emphasis on what people take home or how many pairs of shoes that they have. And I was even looking today, I was like, I haven't really bought any clothes this year. I think I bought a couple of jumpers, a couple of bits and bobs, but I was certainly looking at my trousers and thinking, I need to go shopping. I need to do that. I don't think I bought a pair of shoes this year at all. And again, this is the thing. It's like what people value in different way. But I've certainly got to the end of this year and thought, actually, it's not just about all the marketing spiel of like 10xing or I was 10xing? No, 10xing, or, you know, all of these, you know what I'm talking about, all this language, obligatory, no, what's the word? Ambiguous language around people's businesses that they're sharing online in these very sort of broad strokes way of, they're not talking if it's profit or turnover or what their expenses are or what their relationship is like with themselves or their children or their partner or their family, or we're not seeing the whole picture. So first and foremost, that has been really interesting for me, of really assessing what I feel money is and what I want to do with it and what's important in my life. And therefore, knowing in foundational terms of what is a version of success for me and what isn't, that's really been helpful in terms of making moves going forward. The second thing that I want to say is this year has been fascinating for me if I look at my bank account, because I've had some extraordinary months that I've made more money than I ever have in any other month at any other time in my life. And then there's been other months which have been very pleasant. Let's just say pleasant. I'm not even going to say mediocre. You know, I did what I needed to do. But some months have not, what I've had in my bank account has not necessarily been converted from the amount of work that I've put in. And so we always have to look at the whole picture and be willing to look at that picture, because like a garden, you know, I love a nature analogy. Sometimes you're planting seeds and you're in that underground bit where you're not seeing the fruits yet. And certainly there have been months this year where I have been doing that behind the scenes. I've been doing that work, and I know that I'll see those shoots probably March, April next year. And that was done purposefully because I know what the beginning of my 2020 is going to look like. And so it's not just an exchange of, okay, how many hours did I work this month? And therefore, this is what I take out. We have to see our businesses and our brands. I'm going to spill that tea all over me. That's why I'm putting it down. We have to see our businesses and our brands as this whole thing, this working. It's a bigger picture is what I'm going to say. The next thing that I'm going to say is about value. There have been some people this year who have spent a lot of money with me on coaching, on development, on building their personal brands, on speaking gigs. I'm talking companies as well as individuals. And what I want you to really think about is the result that you are getting for somebody. And if you can get that result quicker for somebody, great. There have been projects that I've done when people have said, could you do this by tomorrow? And maybe it was that I had that availability. But that is a really exciting thing for people. If they can get that result right now, lovely. They don't want you necessarily to say, we're going to be working together for the next 6 months. They're like, 6 months? I'm an introvert. I don't want to work with somebody for 6 months. So concentrate on that value. Concentrate on what it is. The way that you deliver can come in all kinds of formats and vehicles and all the rest of it. But if you know what that value is, it will shift everything. And what will happen is you'll shift into, how can I make that value more accessible? How can you show that you can get the result right now? And that's been a really interesting thing. So your pricing, it matters, but it doesn't. And here is something I want to say again and again. Dramatic pause. What do I want to say? My most high ticket offerings and programs and services are the easiest to sell. I know, mic drop moment. I should have done the mic drop dramatic pause afterwards, but I did it before. The highest things that I offer are the easiest to sell and the quickest to sell. Like, I can get an email and somebody goes, great, I'm all in, let's do it. Let's go. How can I pay how can I pay the whole invoice? How can I pay the first bit? Let's get going. Something that is like £5, 10 quid, 20 quid, that seems to have a pattern of much more conversation. And I want to say that your prices almost have nothing to do with whether or not people can afford them. Because I invite you at this time to look at your Instagram feed and to look at what people are spending money on. Now, when I was a child at a party, I was having this conversation with my mum the other day, we would have, and I lived in a little village when I was a kid, and there was this room at the village hall. I don't even know how much it was to hire, like maybe, I don't know, £5 or something. And my mum would make sandwiches, and she'd probably make a cake as well, because she makes really good cakes. And when I say really good cakes, like tasty cakes, she's not like having things cascading off the side of it, or it's not triple layered, but it's good. So like, she loves buttercream. So if that's your bag, absolutely. And then we would have like a ghetto blaster with some music, pass the parcel, musical statues, like all of that sort of stuff. And it's really interesting to use that as an example, that what people will spend money on, like those grazing things, a balloon arch, an entertainer, different party bag options, invitation. Like, you can take that whole concept and run with it big time to such an extreme. And so when you talk about your prices, and if somebody says you're too expensive, or have you got anything cheaper, or do you do discounts or anything like that, it's really important that you stand in your sense of like what you value and how your self-worth is. Because what you might find is that people are spending that money willy-nilly on all kinds of other things. And certainly in my industry, sometimes people are hesitant about spending money on themselves because they haven't done that before. And that brings up a lot of stuff. Like, they could quite easily spend over £1,000 on a handbag, but spending that on their development or on their business, that might bring up something different as well. So I want you in 2022 to stand firm in who you are, who you serve, and what you're all about. And really understand and do lots of work around what your self-worth is and what does feel a really good exchange of time for money. And I am thrilled to say, for the first time, probably, like if we're looking at it as a whole year, 2021 has been the first time where I've got to December and I've thought that everything that I've done this year felt really good. Really good, a really lovely exchange. Sorry, I'm doing like old man at a disco. If you're listening on the podcast, you can't see me, but you can watch on the YouTube channel. I'm doing like old man at on a disco floor somewhere. Mad, not mad uncle. What am I saying? Anyway, gosh, I've gone off on a tangent. But what I'm saying is, do that work on yourself. Get to that point where things are feeling good and the right people will come. I promise you. And if you're not putting your prices to a point, if you're always underselling yourself, people are not going to value your services necessarily. And also, if people have an option to kind of take it or leave it, or yeah, it was free anyway, then they'll do that and they won't value what you have. So those are some of my biggest lessons: checking my numbers, being really meticulous about what's coming in. Oh, also one final thing. I've really been paying attention to what I need and what I want. That has been really interesting as well. And what I really value. And that is sometimes very, very simplistic. And those shifts and those changes that I've made, something like a really small change. So for the last 2 years, because they opened 2 years ago, I buy lots of my fruit and veg. Sometimes I buy bits from the supermarket as well if I'm there and if I need something. But generally, I try and buy my fruit and veg from our local greengrocers. And the quality of their food is so good. It all just looks really rich in colour. It tastes amazing. It's delicious. And that small change, I mean, some people would be like, all right, Nikki, you know, you're getting your oranges from somewhere else, or you've got a couple of different variations of tomatoes. To me, that brings me so much joy. I am in my fridge a lot. And if I can look in my fridge and go, that looks great food that I really want to eat. Equally, if I go to a pub or a restaurant and I pay really good money for some food, I want that food to taste really good. I really dislike it when you go somewhere and you're like, oh, I could have made that better myself. Notice what you need and what you want as well. And again, it doesn't have to be like, well, I want to go to Bora Bora for 2 weeks of the year. It could be, I just want to upgrade and like buy the nice bread that I want and get that every day. Anyway, money chat over. This is over to you now. So if you want to come over and do some pricing and packaging work, this is the perfect time. So come on over to my website under the pricing and packaging section. You can work it through, or you can book an additional session with me as well. But yeah, do this work now. Have a think. It will need a bit of time and consideration. Take it on a walk if you like, and I'll speak to you soon. Lots of love. Bye.